our children need to hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix. Too scared to sing the anthem from a braver day, a song our children still need to hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix.
And here's my dear friend, Dr. Bruce Paix, my friend, episode 120.
Action!
Action! Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you, brother. Good to see you. And people starting to jump in, which is good. And I do got to make time. I was going to update that clip because, as you said, there's a lot of military stuff in there, but we want to put some other stuff in there so I am going to make time to do that and just chuck a few more non-military slides in there so people know you're actually human outside of the military.
Oh wow, you've got the skill set to do that, do you?
Well, I can just put it through the editor and add a couple of things in there and, see how we go.
Good man.
Yes. Now you're going to know how much longer I'm going to be useful for. You're starting to make quite a name for yourself. You're, on discussions with the big guns from America. Like, last night, if people hadn't seen it, and you're on with Cafe Locked Out with Michael. Well done, Michael. With Mark Hobart, Miley Trin, yourself. Who else was there? There was two others there. Who else was it? Miley.
I think the Oost was there.
Oosterhouse was there, and who's the other one? Steve? No. Who's that? I can't remember. We'll see in a minute when we bring it up. I'm going to bring it up. But had to be chopped and cut a bit because there's a fair bit of an echo from a couple of the guests, I think, with a feedback coming through. So Michael had to do a little bit of cutting and splicing, but I've got a little bit of just a little tiny bit of an excerpt from that, and you can talk into maybe do a bit of a summary about, there's probably, having Peter on was probably great. I mean, he's such a sharp, articulate person. I reckon he's got a bit of ADHD. I don't know how he does it. He probably only sleeps about 4 hours a day. The guy just never seems to stop. He's just got so much energy, but such a godsend for people like myself, lay people, as have you been and others. But him and Pierre Corey and a few of the others, Malik and the American doctors, I forget what her name is. There's a lady there, but there's so many people from the States that actually spoke out and had the ability to speak out probably a little bit more than what we did here in Australia, and probably didn't get as cancelled, not to the extent that we did over here. So, but I'm so grateful for those people in the early days of COVID that helped me navigate information that we weren't privy to from elsewhere, right? So it was very coordinated. So, but anyway, what I thought I'd do, Bruce, is just share a little bit of, and I'm pretty sure most people would be aware of Dr. Peter McCullough by now, but anyway, I'm going to play a little bit of a clip from his YouTube, Peter McCullough, and it was a Durskin Senate. He was a witness. He was a lead witness in the U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Subcommittee. I'm just going to play this little bit just to give a bit of context about him, obviously his experience, and just and it talks into a lot of bit about what we talk about, a little bit about that control and othering and what people were labeled and that. So I'm going to play that, and then a little bit of a clip from the discussion you had last night. Was it last night, I think, with Chloe? Was it last night or a couple of nights ago? I can't remember, but anyway, we'll bring it up. But anyway,
went in the can several days ago, but I think it probably only got published in the last couple.
Yeah, because he had a bit of editing to do, so it's okay. No worries. I'll just bring up add him to stage. So I'm just going to play this. This is his YouTube channel. Obviously not going to play all of it. It's about the, obviously vaccine and myocarditis. He's obviously quite qualified with that, being a cardiologist. So I'm just going to play this little quick bit here.
The first time I testified at Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, before a word came out of my mouth, Minority Senator Gary Peters said, what America was about to hear was misinformation. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I had never heard that term before in academic medicine or in important deliberations. That's November 19th, 2020. What was he doing? He was using an old communist propaganda technique. He was attempting to gain leverage over me before a word ever came out of my mouth. We should never have our public servants ever try to gain leverage over anyone who is coming to Washington to help the nation on an important issue. As introduced, I'm an internist, I'm a cardiologist. I believe I'm the most published individual who's ever testified on matters related to COVID-19 in any of these hearings. I've seen and examined more patients. I've examined more data, and I'm one of the most published people on the topic in the world. And as a cardiologist, I can tell you, my role in this was to fight disease, preserve life, and above all, do no harm. Do no harm. Now, the topic today is myocarditis or heart damage from the COVID.
Gives you a little bit of an intro there. I just muted you there, mate, because as Peter was starting to talk there, I was starting to get a bit of feedback from your end there. I think it might have been loud and it was coming back through your microphone, so I just muted you. But that's, obviously Peter McCullough, and that goes for quite a bit longer. It's on his YouTube. I mean, he talks extensively into myocarditis and lots of things, and he's very qualified fella. But I wanted to just share this little bit of an excerpt from last night as well. There's a bit of an interaction with Mark Hobart, and talks about other things and in relation to how big this thing is. So I'm just going to play this a little bit quickly too.
So the question is, what would make regulators in Australia behave the same way, assuming they're not talking to one another?
They're controlled. They're told what to do. The same people that are controlled.
By who, though?
Well, people that are higher up than them, higher up the chain. Where does the chain stop? I don't really know, but it goes pretty high, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, my first book, we struggle with this, and we came up with a term called the biopharmaceutical complex. And the biopharmaceutical complex, we think, is essentially a power organization that's formed over decades. And in the group is the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation, the Gates Foundation, the Wellcome Trust, the Rockefeller Foundation, Gavi and Unitaid, UNAID, and then as we go outward, all the regulatory agencies. So CDC, NIH, FDA, the Health Canada, the MHRA in the UK, the EMA in Europe, SAFRA, AFRA, TGA, that they're interlinked. And I think who was giving a lot of the command and control was the World Health Organization.
Well, I think it's...
Yeah, but of which Anthony Fauci, by the way, is still prominently positioned in the WHO, Bill Gates and others. But the WHO has over 100 what's called NFPs, or national focal points. And the one in the United States is called PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization in Washington, D.C. They're communication nodes. And, when you talk about who's giving the orders or direction, I think it's the WHO. They're in sync with the regulatory agencies. The regulatory agencies turn around and they do the exact same thing in countries all over the world. The action
Oops, hang on, I'll take myself off mute. That's a little bit better. So yeah, it's a bit choppy. If people want to check that out, I just put you on mute again too. For some reason, when I was playing that, must have been feeding back through your speakers, but it doesn't seem, when I'm speaking now, it doesn't seem to be echoing back feedback. But that was obviously a longer discussion with you guys there, and it is a bit choppy there, but very, very experienced fellow. But again, it's like a lot of us already knew. A lot of this coordinated global kind of infrastructure that's been set up, and I think it's just really amazes me. And I've been writing on my blog and just unpacking things for myself with my writing. I've been able to do research, and a lot of this control mechanism in a lot of the Western countries just seems to really come to the fore, and it's just amazing how much people are still not aware about the influence of all these organizations and the groupthink, and how what they're writing, this ends up becoming soft policy frameworks. So they all say, they don't influence individual sovereign nations and so forth, but ultimately a lot of our policies adopt a lot of the stuff that they're doing, and the WHO, there's been a massive concern about the influence of the World Health Organization over countries like ours, and it's just really concerning. Did you have a bit of a summary from that overall discussion from that group with you? I mean, there was nothing that you probably wouldn't have been aware of talking with Dr. McCullough, but he just articulates things really well, doesn't he?
Well, let's set the stage. So one of the things Chloe, Cafe Locked Out, starting to do is to profile prominent dissident doctors from around the world, and basically bring them on and have them interact with a panel of the Australian doctors who also suffered the same issues. And I think Peter McCullough's question, who is in charge of all of this, is an interesting question. And later on in the podcast, I'm going to talk about a book by G. Edward Griffin called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which talks about how central banking was set up. And he also goes into the who's in charge question. And to paraphrase what he was saying, think of it as that one of those series of nested Russian dolls. So the biggest doll on the outside is the people. And we think we're in charge. We think we vote for politicians and they do what we want. But when you take us off, inside of them is the next layer, which is the politicians, and they think they're in charge. When you take that doll out, inside of them is all the institutions, the WHO and so forth that McCullough talked at. And I don't know how many sets of Russian dolls there are, but somewhere in the centre that we'd never even get close to is the people who are really in charge. And each layer thinks they're in charge because they don't see, each sequential doll inside. And so the real people who are behind this, we don't know. We see the shells that they push out. We see Fauci, we see the WHO, we see Dr. Ghebreyesus, we see Scott Morrison, we see the chief health officers, but they're all taking their own orders, which they don't even know about. They're being controlled from a shell or more shells inside of them. And I don't think we'll ever know how far that goes. That's the whole point. When you're an evil minion pulling all these levers from behind the curtain, the last thing you want is the curtain pulled aside. So I don't think we'll ever know who's ultimately controlling us. And it doesn't matter because, as you know, I take the opposite. I don't take a top-down view of autonomy. I take a bottom-up. Autonomy starts with me. It doesn't start with whoever's at the top telling me what to do. It starts with me deciding what I should do, what's good for me, and taking the consequences, good or bad. So that's an answer to that question. And for those who don't know, Peter McCullough was one of the prominent dissidents from early on in the COVID days, and he was very qualified to do so. He's not only a cardiologist, but he's published extensively in public health, and he turned those skills to the obvious early questions, myocarditis principally. Now, he survived being deregistered, and I did ask him, I said, look, you're surrounded on a panel, every one of these Australian doctors is no longer practicing. How come you still are? And he raised a very valid point, and that is that in the US, the state still has, by the state I mean Louisiana, Texas, whatever, the state
Mm.
still has primacy over the federation, the US, the United States. And so he had options. You know, he was registered in Texas, but he could also get registered in other states, which meant he had somewhere to run. Now, of course, we don't have that in Australia. We have a federal system. We have APRA in charge of everybody, and it extends across the states. And there's nowhere else we can go. You know, I can't, as a doctor, go, well, I don't care about APRA. I don't like their policies. I'm going to get registered with Independent Doctors Registry Board. There is no such thing by law, which meant the government can control one body and shut everybody down, which, of course, is what they did. Also noted at the start, one of the things Peter McCullough said at the start of his testimony is, hey, look, before I've even said a word, I've had people saying that I'm wrong. And that, does a sort of Adelaide-based cardiologist ring a bell there? You know, rocking out, you know, reasons why whatever Bruce is about to say is wrong.
Yeah,
and
I'm
he
not
said that's
not bringing him up
Does
at
that
all.
ring a bell?
Yeah, no, it used to be someone we'd platform, but we're not doing that anymore.
Now, he said that was a communist technique, but I think it goes back further. So in the modern era, we call that pre-bunking. So the media will push out stories pushing a certain line and at the same time demonizing another one. And we see it all the time. You know, they label, oh, you know, time to get your mRNA vax, don't listen to the stupid conspiracy theorists. So before any evidence or any counter argument is brought, they're already telling people that it's wrong. And you might remember that early on in the COVID catastrophe, I said this is a military operation. We've got border controls, we've got armed police in the streets, we've got the military in the streets, we've got censorship, we've got identity checks, all of that. So it had all the elements of a military operation, and in fact it was run by a 3-star general from the Army, Lieutenant General Fruin. And by the way, there's only a handful of 3 stars in the entire ADF. Even though it's rank heavy, there's way too many flag officers up the top. They still found a 3-star to run the COVID program. And you might remember in Victoria, they even had paramilitary titles. You know, we had Jerome Weimar, who was the COVID commander. You know, not the health provider. He was the commander of the COVID response. Now, in military terms, that's called shaping the battlefield. That's where you attempt to influence the terrain you're going to fight on before you even fight. So in the case of Gulf War 1 and 2, you had this massive aerial campaign where they attempted to knock out all of the opposition before they even invaded. Now, another story, but they're trying to do that at the moment and it'll fail because they can't invade. But yeah, it's not so much a pre-bunk. This is shaping the battlefield. We are at war, and I said early on, the governments went to war with the people, and most of the people collaborated. They shaped the battlefield very effectively with all of those tools that I just spoke about.
And our sturdy dissenters, yeah, exactly
I
right.
thank Dr. McCullough. McCullough was the antidote to Fauci. So in so many ways, America is all that's good about freedom in the world and all that's bad about it, all rolled up into one. And that's what you get. There is no, you know, perfect solution to everything. As Thomas Sowell said, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. And so we had the heart of darkness emanating from America, and that was Fauci. And of course, that wasn't coming from him. That was being pushed up from somewhere that we don't know. You know, that inner shell of the Russian doll was telling him what to say. And that largely influenced the world, including Australia. Now, on the other hand, America was also the pinnacle of light because we had McCullough and Corey and Robert Malone and all the ethical doctors who stood up and said, that's wrong. So we had both things at the same time. And let's face it, we're best part of 5 years down the track and the truth is starting to come out. We pretty much knew it all along, but there are some bits of it leaking out. The media is obviously going to suppress that as much as they can. And final thing to say about McCullough and Malone, they started off as skeptics based on their narrow silo of expertise. McCullough, it was cardiology. Robert Malone, well, he was instrumental in the development of mRNA technology. And it's been interesting to see them spread out from that. And once they realised that, this whole health program is a lie, to look at all their other posts. They're talking about other ways governments are lying. They're examining the causes of war, the current one being the America-Israeli-Iran war. They've looked at finance, etc., etc. I was blessed. My government actually paid for my education by sending me to all parts of the world and letting me see for myself that everything they tell us is a lie. So it's been nice to see these siloed experts like Malone and McCullough catch up and sort of spread the net wider. Once there's been infidelity in a marriage, trust is gone. Once you've had one lie exposed, you start to look at everything else in a different light from then on.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. Absolutely. And those on, I don't know if it's just innocent bystander, I'm not sure if it's just a YouTube issue, but if other people are having real struggles hearing Bruce, and if the sound's an issue, let me know in the chat as well. Not really that much I think we can do about it, but yeah, it seems to be, it could be just a YouTube thing. We might be able to jump across to one of the Rumbles instead if that keeps being a problem. But some of the other guys on YouTube let us know if the sound issues there as well. So anyway, we'll see how we go. We'll try and keep plodding along. But yeah, no, it's
I haven't changed any settings, and I am aware that my audio quality is not as good as I'd like, despite spending money on a proper podcast microphone. So I've actually got in the post a different mic and headset like you wear, Mark. Hasn't arrived yet. I'd like my audio to be crisper. I do listen to all of the podcast, if for no other reason than to detect all of the misspeaks that I make, the number of times that I said something that I didn't mean, or was the opposite of what I meant, or used the wrong word. So yeah, I'm aware that my audio is not as good as yours, Mark, and I'm hoping to do something about that.
That sounds good, and it sounds like on Rumble it's coming through okay by the looks of it. Some people are commenting, so yeah, could be maybe just a YouTube thing, but we'll see how we go. X is fine as well by the look of it, so that's okay. That's all right. Well, what do you reckon? We'll kick into the important stuff, mate. Unless you had more to cover on that little conversation and McCullough and others, but yeah, very grateful for people like him through that period, and looking forward to some more conversations with Chloe, with doctors, dissenting doctors from around the world, and hopefully having those conversations. There is some cracks starting to build, but as we know, people have built this much power or mechanisms for control. They're not going to let go of it lightly, and you're right. I think going back, that bottom-up method is definitely a lot better than submitting to what's going on. And I think in our circles anyway, people are starting to look at that. And I'm a big fan of pushing things back to the community where it should be, right? It should be at the local community, local government sort of area where a lot of that stuff's formulated. And then ultimately the local government, then the state, and I still think the state should have the power over the federal government, because they've become way. I think Philip, you're on. No, you're on. Oh no, you are on Rumble too. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. And I think it's different for everybody. So. No, I think it's different for different people, so it might just be something going on there. But yep. Anyway, we'll just keep plodding on and seeing how we can. Just crank the volume up really loud, and you'll be able to hear, hopefully.
Let's do that.
Let's do this. This is you.
Okay.
There we go. 120.
Number 120. What are we talking about in number 120? There's the contents list. Brief updates on both the Gulf War and the invasion of Europe, also known as the Camp of the Saints from last week. I've got a calming green map this week. You'd be aware that the Bureau of Met loves pushing out these scary red graphics all the time. Well, I've got a countering calming green graphic from Joe Nova's blog,
Nice.
and also in the runoff from that, another story where the UK Bureau of Met's again saying that we're all about to fry and die, and that the recent summer in Europe is killing thousands of people. Um, they lie. They lie the same as our Bureau of Meteorology. They are bought and paid for government agencies, and their job is to scare us about climate, which is not true. So I'm going to just show you an example of what they're doing there.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Spare
Scaremongering with the old climate, like they are with the old birds falling out of the sky.
Yes, well, that'll get a run as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fair bit of health this week. So we mentioned a week or two ago that they've rolled out the first mRNA flu shot. Of course they have. That was the whole point of COVID. It wasn't to get that mRNA into your arm. It was to get every mRNA in the future into your arm. So, yep, first mRNA shot's out. And Paul Oosterhouse has been publishing on Twitter X about that. So I'm going to show you some numbers.
Yep.
And another story this week that was getting a fair bit of press was the nasty AFL. I think it was Geelong Football Club was being roundly criticised for allowing a player to exercise their own informed consent about the risks of playing. That wasn't portrayed that way. That was portrayed as a shady deal where the club's trying to get out of liability if he gets hurt. But I'm going to show you. Well, he's an adult. He's allowed to make decisions. There was no suggestion that he was incompetent to make the decision. He wanted to play. The club said, you've had a few concussions, that makes you more at risk in the future. If you really want to play, that's on you. And he said, that's on me, I'll do it. But the mainstream media is firmly in the era Sicherheit camp. It's for your safety. And the club is being roundly criticised for allowing that player to exercise his autonomy about his livelihood, by the way. We pay danger money to all sorts of industries, including me when I was overseas on military missions. I got paid more if it was a war zone than if it wasn't. We pay loggers more, we pay miners more, and partly is to compensate them for the risks they're taking. We don't say, logging's dangerous, shut it all down, not unless you're green, of course. So I'm going to talk about that. In the government overreach section, we've got this interesting insight that I got from reading a story in the Epoch Times, which basically said, forget left-right of politics, forget up-down of politics. What really matters is individual versus collective. And that was a bit of an insight for me, so I'm going to speak about that. And we're going to end with a couple more Muslims. We've got the latest episode of Climate Change and also a very nice lancing of a boil in the US, because a 6'10" male pro basketballer has come out and said, you know what, I qualify as a woman, I'm going to play in the WNBA instead. That's an example of, use your enemy's rules against them. Well, he can identify as a woman, why not?
Yeah. Yep. Yes, very interesting. 6'10". Wow.
Yeah, which is not particularly tall, but he's probably 120, 130 kilos, by the way.
Well, I think there was an image of it was a women's handball league where there was a massive dude on their team of really intimidating over others. It's bloody crazy.
But if one woman's bigger than another woman, I don't know what you're worried about.
Yeah, right. XX or XY, mate.
You bigot.
Yes. Acknowledged. Guilty, Your Honour. Guilty.
Updates time. What's the first update? The first update's about the Gulf War, and no major changes since last week. The exact same pattern. Day to day, Trump vacillates between they're desperate to make a deal, there'll be a deal tomorrow, and I'm going to blow stuff up. And so that's pretty much still the state. No changes there, huh?
Good on you, JB and Eddie.
Is that the one you're bringing up? Why couldn't he sign a waiver?
Hmm.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That's right.
Here's the thing. You're referencing the AFL player who wanted to keep playing. He did sign a waiver. He said,
Hmm.
I understand the risks and I judge that in my case they're acceptable to me and I'd like to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
But the mainstream media said, no, you're not an adult. You're not allowed to make a decision about that. The club should have stopped you playing. That's basically the flavour of all the media reporting. And I haven't heard a single non-player come out and say, well, hang on, that's a personal choice. There's a few ex-players who've said, shit, I would have taken the risk. I did take the risk. But
Mm.
all the experts, the footy commentators are all saying that, we need an investigation. This isn't fair. This isn't
Mm.
right. The club was, you know, taking, allowing him to take a risk. Well, pro tip, football is not a non-contact sport. You do take risks if you play it.
Mm. Yeah. Watch them all bring out the analogy about the seatbelts, which they bloody flogged during COVID. Well, you wear a seatbelt, don't you? Well, you take a
Well,
vaccine.
if they want to bring up COVID, I think they're on a loser there.
Mm. Yep.
Alrighties. So following on from the Gulf War, so we've had Trump saying the usual daily alternating between desperate for a deal or bomb them all to hell. Um, and the Iranians have come out and said, well, okay, here are our conditions for reopening the strait. And by the words, reopening the strait is the Schwerpunkt. We've
Mm.
discussed that word. If the strait is closed, the Iranians have won, are winning, have won. And so the Iranians have said, look, we'll only open the strait if you acknowledge that we've won by meeting our conditions. And these conditions, by the way, have gone back months. These are just some of the conditions that were in the MOU, which fell over, 6 or 8 weeks ago. So Iranians, the ones who are desperate for a deal, those ones, they've said, okay, if you want a deal, here's what you've got to do. We need a permanent end to the aggression on Iran and its regional allies. Now, its regional allies include Gaza, includes Lebanon, and it includes the Houthis in Yemen. So that was in fact point number one of the, I think, 14-point MOU, which the Israelis broke immediately because they just kept blowing up stuff in southern Lebanon. The Iranians have said you've got to lift the naval blockade and all the sanctions on Iran. So Iran's been sanctioned by the US, and a sanction, by the way, is equivalent to a blockade, which means it's an act of war. And the Iranians have been sanctioned by the US for the last 47 years. So they want that to end. They want their frozen assets back. Now, a little bit of history lesson there. The US-Iranian relations went sour 47 years ago when they had the Iranian Revolution, they had the swarming of the American embassy and the hostage taken of 100 or 200 American citizens from the embassy. That's what this 47 years of war thing goes back to. Now, at that same time, the Americans were holding billions of dollars that the Iranians had already paid for this delivery of military hardware, F-14 fighter jets, amongst other things. And so as part of that kerfuffle, the Americans froze those assets. So the Iranians paid for some stuff from the Americans, and the Americans then just kept the money and didn't send them the stuff. That's what their frozen assets are. And finally, the Iranians said, well, an end to the war requires you paying us compensation for damage. And there's been billions of dollars of damage done to Iran. So the Iranians said, okay, they're at, you want the strait reopened, you've got to do all of these things. So that's the problem.
Yep. As I said, lots of good money in arms replenishment. Lots of.
Yes, now, looking at that, I've circled a thing there, which is the Iranians require a end to the war on all fronts, and that includes war on their allies. So that includes Hamas in Gaza, it includes Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, it includes the Houthis in Yemen. But in particular, it means that the Israelis have to leave Gaza and the Israelis have to leave Lebanon. So those are preconditions for any agreement to end the war. And that's a problem because we know that Israel has a history of either not complying at all or breaching any agreements very swiftly. And the Israelis have already signalled that they're not going to do that. So they've said that they've rejected the Gaza peace plan. And again, you know, the media lies all the time. This story said that Iran makes new demands to reopen Hormuz. The Iranian demands have been the same since day one, and I've just listed some of them. They haven't made any new demands, although they are entirely within their rights to do so because they won. There is no military solution to this war. The only solution is for the Americans to leave one way or another. And they don't therefore get to set the victory conditions. The victors get to do that. So
Yep.
now on that topic, here's the current state of our in-country fuel stocks from lastdrop.au. So we're a bit worse off in terms of all the three major liquid fuels, diesel, petrol and jet fuel have all gone back between 2 and 4 days. And look at that jet fuel. We've got 21 days of jet fuel onshore in Australia. 3 weeks. 3 weeks, that's it. And diesel, and only slightly more. And diesel is critical for all industry and all farming in Australia.
I wonder if that's separated between domestic airline jet fuel or military fuel. Is that 21 days for even Australia's military planes and the whole lot?
That's normal consumption. So what we would normally, at our normal rates of consumption across all uses, that's how long we've got if the supplies stop tomorrow. Now this is relevant in the Gulf as well, of course, because you know, the Americans must be burning prodigious amounts of jet fuel in all of their military operations. And of course, it's hard for them to get fuel in the Gulf because the refineries are shut down, the oil's not flowing, all their bases have been destroyed. So there's a lot of talk about the US running out of missiles, but I think it's quite likely they're running out of jet fuel as well. Nevertheless, fuel prices.
It almost sounds like it could all be another little chink in the whole design to disempower America. This could be like a big plan, the overall plan, right? There's a lot of people said the might of America is what protects the rest of the world's so-called democracies, and seems like a lot of this is playing into some people's hands.
Well, America, I don't think, has been a beacon of democracy for a while. Certainly reference the number of other countries that they've invaded. You know, China hasn't invaded another country in decades, and I think even then it was just their neighbour Vietnam in a border skirmish. The Americans invaded dozens of countries in recent decades, dozens of them.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep, always at the front of it. Yep, the military.
Now,
It's a bit like COVID. You mentioned military and COVID. And it's like, you know, it's the big stories about DARPA being involved from the word go. It's like, so it's a military campaign. You know, the whole lot controlled by these actors.
Yep, it's not just the health industrial complex; it's the everything industrial complex. I think you'll find military being part of it. That term, by the way, the military industrial complex, that was first uttered by, I think it was General Eisenhower, who was a 5-star in World War II, who then went on to be the US president. And when he left office in the 50s, having served his time, his exit speech warned people about the military industrial complex, which as a 5-star he might know something about.
Yep. And didn't Kennedy have some things to say about that too before he got kaput?
Yeah, very shortly before he got kaputted.
Funny about that, isn't it? Funny how that works.
All right. On the fuel price front, not much changed over the week, and I'm reversing my green and red there. So a fall in diesel price, I'll put in green because that's a good thing, and a petrol going up, I'll put in red because that's a bad thing. So modest changes there, despite the above drawdown of our local stocks by about 20, 30, 40% in a week. Our reserves have gone down significantly.
Yeah.
All right, next update on the Camp of the Saints invasion with African migrants storming across the border into Spain in their tens of thousands. And last week, somebody noted, okay, here's a picture of the asylum seekers. Looks more like an invasion to me. This is all young, powerful, military-aged men. And this cartoon sort of hit on that as well, because it made this point. If you're fleeing from danger, you take your family with you. If you're invading a country, you leave them behind. And we noticed that a week or two ago.
Yep. No, we'll conquer the land first and then bring the women and children over, hey?
Exactly.
So
Right.
the comment here, China doesn't invade anywhere else because controlling their own population takes a lot of energy, but I'd assert they don't need to invade militarily. They're just doing it by stealth in other forms.
Well, it's not even stealth. I mean, the Americans and the Chinese are quite upfront about how they pursue foreign policy. The Americans do it with bombs, and the Chinese do it with infrastructure builds.
Yep.
When I was in Papua New Guinea with the ADF, there was a Chinese neurosurgical team in Port Moresby. It was the only neurosurgeon in the country, and that was a Chinese military neurosurgeon and 2 or 3 assistants. So, yep, the Chinese do pursue foreign policy through good works, if you like, through infrastructure. And the Americans pursue it by saying, make a deal or we bomb you.
That's right. Yeah, we'll go to Victoria for the Belt and Road Initiative and have Daniel Andrews in your back pocket. But anyway, that didn't go well.
Andrews is gone and his proxy, Jacinda Allen, is gone. So I'm pretty sure that Ben Carroll will be nothing like either of those. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Don't remain too hopeful, brother. Commissar Carroll, good on you.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Now, as I said, I'm going to give you an antidote to all the scary red graphs that they love throwing at us and wagging their fingers about global boiling. So the antidote to that is this graph from Joe Nova, and this notes that CO2 is a plant food, and that plants grow better when it's warmer. This is why Greenland is covered in ice and not green. It used to be green. So if your temperature genuinely goes up and the CO2 levels do go up, then plants like it. They grow better. So CO2 is plant food. It's not a poison. And if you want evidence of that, ask anybody who's a commercial greenhouse grower. The panels are designed to keep it warmer inside, and they pump CO2 into it to get better plant growth. So this global greening chart, rather than a global boiling chart, says the following. Last year, global greening reached a record high not seen in more than 40 years. Fully 60% of the world's forests became greener in 2025, and 72% of grasslands and 78% of croplands increased in biomass. Now, I'm guessing we won't see that chart in any of the mainstream media. I'm guessing that the Bureau of Meteorology won't publish it, and neither will the UK Met.
You think?
I think they're too busy with these graphs.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. Funny about that, huh?
And the Met Office in the UK, which, as I mentioned, is the propaganda arm of the government in the same way that the BOM, the Bureau of Meteorology, is our propaganda arm for climate, they've jumped aboard pretty quickly, and they've published this study that says we're all going to die, and it's all our fault. And it's because, as an example, there's been thousands of people die during the recent summer weather in Britain. Now, note the word there I've circled, estimated. So,
Doesn't mean modelling again.
Deaths are not that hard to estimate.
Depends what model you're using.
You know if somebody's dead or not, right? So it's not something very complicated. So why didn't they just tell us the actual numbers rather than estimate.
Hmm.
How did they come to that 2,700 figure? Well, here's how they came to it. They used
Nearly
their
a
old
gazump
friend
strike.
They used modelling from the Imperial College of London, which was spectacularly wrong about COVID risk. So they've run to them and said, "Can you produce some scary numbers for us?" And they did. And just a reminder, models are not data. So the UK Met saying that we modelled 2,700 extra deaths doesn't mean there were 2,700 extra
Hmm.
deaths. It means they produced a model that said there were. Okay. And a reminder, models are not the real thing. And when you make a model, you know what the end result's meant to look like. That's the whole purpose of a model. You want to build something. The outcome is predetermined, and in this case, obviously the outcome would have been, oh, well, we need to know that there were thousands of extra deaths due to the heat.
Hmm.
So I said at the start, look, why do they model it? Why didn't they just tell us the actual numbers? That can't be too hard, surely.
Can't sell fear that way, Bruce.
Well, not only that, they can't use the actual numbers because these are the actual numbers. So here's the number of cumulative deaths in England and Wales, last year versus this year. So last year, ordinary summer. This year, global boiling catastrophe, all going to die, thousands extra dead. Now, you might not be able to see it, but there's actually two lines there. There's a red line and a blue line. And the red line is last year. And if anything, the blue line this year is lower than it. So I'm not looking at that and seeing this thousands of extra deaths blip that happened during the recent summer weather. Are you?
Hmm. No, where is it, mate?
So that's why they didn't use data. That's why they used models, because they couldn't use data.
That's right. Oh, the same through COVID, wasn't it? Exactly the same.
Now, all this should have come as no surprise to anyone, given that we already know that cold causes 10 times more excess deaths than heat.
Hmm.
And this Lancet study actually admitted that. So they looked at what they called temperature-related deaths. So they said certain temperatures optimum, how many people die if it's higher and how many people die lower. And here's the findings. They said about 1 in 10 deaths were temperature related, and of those, 90% were due to excess cold, and less than 10% were due to excess heat. So we already knew that excess heat does not cause excess deaths. It's excess cold that causes excess deaths. So
Yeah, but they know
I don't
that.
understand all this, Mark. This is all very sciencey and hard. Can you explain it to me?
Trust the science, Bruce. Trust the science. We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Trust the science.
Might just have to trust the experts. What do you say?
Trust the experts.
All right.
If
Now,
you
just a
question, if,
reminder what
if you
the
question,
experts
if you question the science, you're questioning Flannery.
or Fauci.
Hmm.
So here's the thing. They told us there were thousands of extra deaths. They lied. There were no extra deaths. And we already know that we wouldn't expect any because cold's the killer, not heat.
Hmm.
Well, like I say, science is hard. It's not for the little people, is it?
Nope, nope. Not uploading any videos of that, Jay saying. You're my model, you know what I mean. Shake my little tush on the catwalk. I'm too sexy for my cat. Too sexy. Good on you, Jason.
Now, something you may not know, and Jace probably doesn't know either, is that I am a trained model.
You are a trained model.
I was
From your younger years, weren't you? I remember you telling me a story. Yeah.
I was a child model in the 60s.
Oh,
Now,
my groomed were.
no comments about the disconnect between model and reality. Thank you. We'll just move on, I think.
That was before bald head and beardedness happened.
There's a market for that.
There is a niche, as
Right.
they would say.
Onto finance. So the alternate monies are up significantly this week. We got gold up 7%, we got silver up 10%, we got Bitcoin up 3%, and the stock market's up 3% as well. And I regard the stock market as an alternate money because if the dollars lose value, then you need more of them to buy the stock market. The only thing which went against that trend is oil's down 5% on the week. And as I've said every week, that doesn't make sense. There's nothing in reality that says any of those things. We are best part of 6 months into the world's greatest ever energy shock, and the markets just aren't allowed to notice.
No, no, shh.
Right, so what do we got? We've got health. Now, health. To start off with health, update on the mRNA flu shot, which we discussed a week or two ago. And this is from friend of the channel and fellow 32-year cancelled anaesthetist Paul Oosterhouse from Sydney.
G'day, Paul.
And he tweeted or tweeted this out. Okay. So the FDA, the Heart of Darkness for medical regulators in America, has just approved an mRNA flu shot. As far as I know, it's the first mRNA vaccine after COVID that's ever been approved. So here's what Paul tweeted out. The flu shot Trojan horse mRNA is being normalised. And I spoke about that. One of the motivations for lying about the success of the COVID vaccines was that they wanted to keep using that platform forward into the future. And here's the first example of it.
Yeah.
So he said, Big Pharma is betting you won't notice the difference between the old flu shot and the new flu shot. They're moving the flu shot from traditional protein-based methods like chicken eggs to a lipid nanoparticle mRNA synthetic gene platform, which is exactly what the COVID shots were. And that's why they're a problem. The lipid nanoparticle is the little fatty globule that they use to deliver the mRNA into your body. And lipid nanoparticles of themselves are inflammatory. Even if you put nothing in them and you inject them into people, they get inflammatory diseases as a result. But like I said, it was the delivery vehicle. They actually put a payload in it, and the payload in it was the mRNA instructions. Up to now, that had been to tell you to build a spike protein. Now they're putting something else in it to tell you to build a, let's call it a flu protein for simplicity. Now, further from Paul's tweet, the math they don't want you to see. The media is screaming about 27% relative efficacy. So we're being told that the new mRNA flu shot is 27% more protective than the old one. Paul said, don't fall for it. Look at the absolute risk reduction from their own trial data. In the mRNA flu shot group, 2% got sick. In the old flu shot group, 2.8% got sick. So the actual risk reduction is less than 1%. So if you inject yourself with this new experimental thing, even if you believe their numbers, you only reduce your risk of getting the flu by less than 1%. Now, in the reality, he said you would need to vaccinate 137 people to prevent one single case of what they define as the flu. And we talked about this a few shows ago. That's called the number needed to treat. So we need to give 137 people this new mRNA flu shot, even if we believe their numbers, to stop one of them getting flu symptoms. Now, not only that, not only is the number needed to treat so large that the benefit is clinically insignificant, you know, would you put your life at risk for a 1% reduction in something that probably wouldn't kill you anyway?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No.
But
No,
there's worse than that. It's worse than that because there was mountains of evidence in their study that said that this new shot, not only was it marginally effective if you believe them, but it was much more harmful than the old flu shot. So Paul lists the side effects. The mRNA group, which was compared to a traditional flu shot, had much higher rates of adverse reactions. up to 4 times higher in some groups, and more people died in the mRNA group than in the traditional shot group. And notice here they're pulling their old trick, which is there is no control group here. There's no saline group here. They're comparing a new vaccine to an old vaccine. They're comparing the new mRNA to the old chicken egg flu shot. So they're not even trying to show you that the flu shot is safe and effective. They're just assuming that. And then they're saying that the new mRNA flu shot is more effective by less than 1%. And they're ignoring all the extra side effects that you get with it. They do this all the time. They do this all the time. Now, have you noticed something happening at the moment, Mark? I think it is very timely that we've now got the option of an mRNA-based flu shot. Remember, the old flu shot was chicken egg-based. We are so lucky that we now have this option because, oh my God, we can't use chicken eggs at the moment. There's a problem with it. Isn't that lucky? Just a coincidence, I'm sure, Mark.
So many bloody coincidences, right?
Isn't that handy? At the very time when all of a sudden we've accidentally manufactured a crisis using a bogus PCR tests to kill millions of chickens, doesn't matter. We'll just make it in a lab, give you the mRNA flu vax. What are you worried about?
Yep.
How good is that?
Yep.
Now, I'll
These are
remind
always
you what James Bond author, friend of the channel, Ian Fleming said about coincidences. He said, once is happenstance, once just happens, twice is coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. Think back of how many coincidences there have been over the last few years and work out whether they're up to 3 times yet. Are you going to be taking the new mRNA flu vax, Mark?
What do you reckon? What do you reckon the answer is going to be, Bruce? I'm going to be the
pretty
first one to
sure
line
you're
up
not
for it, you know?
Let me rephrase that. Will you be taking the new flu shot or killing grandma? Your choice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, exactly. You know, what's the message? It's safe and effective.
Safe and effective.
Safe for your nonna. For your nonna.
Well, even by their own numbers, safe, who knows, because they didn't compare it to placebo. And in fact, its side effects were worse than the traditional vax, which might not be safe as well. Is it effective? Yeah, you've got to treat 137 people to get maybe 1 less PCR positive diagnosis. Sounds effective to me.
Yeah.
That's the sort of numbers, by the way, that you have to give people statins for decades to prevent 1 cardiac event. And that's if you believe their numbers. You know, when you go to the GP and they badge you about cholesterol and say you've got to be on a statin and you go, oh, I tried that, I've got muscle aches, I've got brain fog, I don't want to do it. They say, oh, you're going to die of a heart attack. Yeah, one time more out of 100 maybe. That's if you believe their numbers. And the numbers are probably fraudulent as well. So
Well,
it's the same thing. Lie about the effectiveness, lie about the risk, and demonise you if you say, sorry, not for me. I'll go play football instead.
Yeah,
That's coming
that's right.
up.
Send you a waiver. I want to sign a waiver. I accept the risk. Well, I'd have to say, on average, then, I guess all the people I'm aware of and know about that, the people that chose not to, seem to be faring pretty well on average.
Yeah, I don't know a single person running around saying, oh, I wish I got my 8 flu jabs or my 8 COVID shots.
That's right. See them lining up.
Somewhere I can catch up, 4 in each arm. Let's hit me, babe.
Yeah, look, I'm behind. What are we up to now? The 12th boost or something? We're to get a 2 in each arm, 2 in each leg, if you want.
And you use the term booster, which is an interesting term because it's not a booster. It's a rescue shot. So I'll give you an example. If your kid's in a class at school and is doing badly, you know, they're falling behind with maths, so the maths teaching's not effective. They go into a remedial class. They get extra to try and repair that. It's not working, need to do something extra. So they call that a remedial maths class. They don't call it a booster class. Vaccines are supposed to make you immune. They used to be called immunisations. If they don't make you immune, they've failed. It's not a booster you're getting, it's a remedial shot.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And remember, I wonder if they're going to do the same with the mRNA. With the mRNA shot, they're just going to, like, you know, let's hear from my old friend. Yeah.
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
I'm actually
You want to hear back?
sorry. I thought you meant Dr. Dan.
No.
Longevity of the protection with regards to the antibodies that are developed. And the world doesn't know that answer. The world is engaged in the largest clinical trial, the largest global vaccination trial ever, and we will have enormous amounts of data. But what's the message for the public? It's safe, it's effective, it will help protect you, but it will also help protect your mum and dad, your grandparents, your nonna.
And this is
So there you go. It'll protect your nonna. So they'll do the same with. Hang on a minute. It's only when I had to mute you, because only when I'm playing stuff that seems to echo. But yeah,
It wasn't a clinical trial. It was a medical experiment. That's what it was.
Yep, exactly what it was. Yep.
All right. Now, I am sorry that our resident pre-bunker isn't with us, because here's a bit more good news. So, another glimmer of hope from the US, where one of the prominent ethical COVID doctors, so in the class of Malone, McCullough, Corey, Merritt, in this case Pierre Corey, has recently won his case, I think in the California Supreme Court, where the court ruled that the medical regulators, the licensing authorities, could not censor what he said and by extension what other doctors said. So they illegally prevented doctors from giving truthful medical advice to their patients, and this court ruling from the US has said that was wrong.
Yep. That's a big one too. That's a real big one. You know, the States pity can't do that here.
And exactly right, we can't do that here because we have and still have censorship of medical advice by our one regulator, APRA. You can't go somewhere else. You can't go to the ex-vaxxers doctor registration authority. This is the only authority you can get registered through. And you might remember in the early stages of the COVID vaccine rollout, they issued what is called the gag order. So all health practitioners were sent this letter telling them that they had to follow the party line with respect to advising patients about COVID vaccines. So here's what it said. Vaccination is a crucial part of the public health response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many registered health practitioners will have a vital role in COVID-19 vaccination programs and in educating the public about the importance and safety of COVID-19 vaccines to ensure high participation rates. Now, I had problems with that at the time because, yes, I was using the best available evidence to counsel my patients, and I was talking about safety and effectiveness. The only bit I got wrong is that last bit of the line, to ensure high participation rates, because in most cases what I told patients meant that they didn't want to participate at all. I told them, you're young, you have minimal risk, there's a lifetime of potential problems with this thing, it's not worth it for you. And I had evidence based. I sent my evidence to Josh Teague, my MP, and he sent the police round to shut me up, aka censor me, remember? So
Yep.
at the start of the Vax campaign, we were censored by APRA. Every health practitioner got the gag order. Now, here's what the gag order said. It said national boards expect all health practitioners to use their professional judgment and the best available evidence in practice. Tick, no problem with that. That's what I did.
Yeah,
And I
true.
spent hundreds of hours stacked on top of formal training in public health. I spent hundreds of hours educating myself on the safety and effectiveness of the COVID vax. And I then exercised my professional judgment to inform patients. So tick the first bit. But they didn't really mean the first bit, because a little bit later they said this: any promotion of anti-vaccination statements or health advice which contradicts the best available scientific evidence, they own the science, or seeks to actively undermine the national immunisation campaign, including via social media. That's what saw Paul Oosterhouse hauled before the board and eventually up before the Supreme Court, is not supported by national boards and may be in breach of the codes of conduct and subject to investigation and regulatory action. Well, that's what happened. Ignore the first bit. You might as well put a but at the end of that. Remember, everything before a but is irrelevant. So they couched it in terms of you must follow the science, except you can only follow their science, which is you have to promote the vaccines, and if you don't, you're in trouble. And I fell foul of that. Miley Trin fell foul of it. Mark Hobart, Paul Oosterhouse, you name it. We did exactly what they said. We acted professionally. We looked at the evidence. We formed an individual judgment, except we came up with a wrong answer according to our wise rulers, and so we had to be censored. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
That's still the case in Australia.
Yep.
APRA is the only single source of truth. Your doctor has to either agree with APRA or they're at risk of getting rubbed out. Doesn't matter what their evidence is, they have to follow the party line or they're at risk of getting rubbed out. And plenty of us will.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Censored,
Right.
deplatformed, wrong think.
So that was a glimmer of hope from America. You know, the Supreme Court of California said you're not allowed to censor doctors who are giving professional advice to patients. Here's another glimmer of hope from America. So in America, the EPA, the Environmental Protection Authority, is admitted they are seriously concerned about the adverse health effects of fluoride. So here's what the story said. The US EPA has taken a major step towards determining whether the fluoride added to most Americans' tap water poses a danger to children's developing brains, announcing a new scientific protocol that will examine links between fluoride exposure and reduced IQ. The move comes as mounting research. I don't know if it's mounting, it's just escaping. We call it escaping, escaping censorship, including studies funded by the NIH, and a landmark federal court ruling has forced regulators to accelerate our review. You're not anti-fluoride, Mark.
No, anti lots of things these days. Anti-government, anti-state.
I might have to check with APRA what their position is on fluoride.
Yeah, well, definitely can't be talking. You might get deregistered for that. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Yes, I was liberated.
Liberated. Yes, exactly right. Yeah.
Now, I've also read into the fluoride topic, and here are the few things I'm concerned about. And by the way, I didn't read any of this shit until COVID came along. You know, well, maybe I looked into statins, but I was fairly well in the matrix about all the accepted wisdom that was shoveled down us. That's what you got taught. That's what you got tested on. But COVID crystallised all the question marks that I've been building up about money, war, food, nutrition, all that sort of stuff. And I added this to the list, okay? Some people think fluoride's bad. Let's look at what they got to say. And so having researched that, here are some of my concerns. Fluoride is a known neurotoxic chemical. It's bad for nerves. It has known health concerns. Nobody disputes that. Fluoridation of drinking water is the same as mandating that you drink it. Because most people don't know it's there, and B, don't have the option of drinking something else. You know, if you live in a city, you probably don't have a water tank, and even if you do, you go to work, the coffee machine's got town water on it. You go to the restaurant, to the deli, whatever you pick up is probably fluoridated. And there's no labels on it. Warning, fluoride, make up your own mind. It's just, it is in the water, literally. So by doing that, you're effectively mandating mass population consumption of it without their consent. Nobody sat them down and said, risks, benefits, what do you want to do? No, if you want to get water, this shit's in it. And my final concern is that fluoride acts topically. Topically means what it touches, okay? So there's no need for you to drink water with fluoride, and most of it to bypass your teeth and go into your body. If you really believe fluoride is good for your teeth, all you got to do is get fluoridated toothpaste. And most toothpaste is. I actually order non-fluoridated toothpaste nowadays, and that gives me the option. But by putting it in the drinking water, not only you're not giving it via the correct route, you're not allowing people to opt out. It should be an opt-in thing. This is a known toxic chemical with health side effects. People should be opting into it, not struggling to opt out of it. Mandation. Mandation in a nutshell, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, here's some more text from the story. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in America, released a new protocol to study fluoride's effects on children's brain development and dental fluorosis. It's a neurotoxin. It kills nerve cells. Of course, it's going to affect your brain cells, especially in kids where they're still forming. A federal court ruled that current fluoridation levels pose an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is known that fluoride risks lower IQ. The chemicals used for fluoridation are industrial byproducts. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Containing trace amounts of arsenic, lead, and aluminium. Nothing wrong with them. They're just heavy metals. Who cares?
Yeah.
Fewer than an eighth of the world's countries fluoridate water, with most of Western Europe banning it. So it's not universal. It's not everybody accepts it. We sort of expect, we believe that in Australia. Of course there's fluoride in the water. Everybody's got fluoride in the water. It's good for you. No, there are many similar Western countries that have banned it already.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we seem to be doing a lot here in Australia that a lot of countries are kind of turning away from. It's very, very, very interesting.
Righto. Next health story. Now, you might remember that they reframed some definitions during the COVID era to create a new normal. So, for example, the definition of a vaccine changed from a therapeutic which prevents infection, makes you immune, hence immunisations, to a therapeutic which reduces disease severity. They had to do that because the COVID shots did not prevent infection. They couldn't. They produced antibodies in your body core, not at the mucosal surfaces. They admitted that. Now, according to that new watered down definition, a therapeutic which reduces disease severity, let me list another therapeutic which is also a vaccine under that definition. Panadol, ibuprofen, Vicks. These are all things which reduce the symptoms of an infection. So they're vaccines, according to this new definition. Forget about making you immune. If they just reduce your fever a bit, yep, that's a vaccine. No worries. Now, they also changed the definition of vaccinated. I mean, common sense would say somebody's vaccinated after they've received a vaccine. Pretty obvious, right? And that used to be. So a person who received a vaccine is the old definition of vaccinated. The new definition, which came out during COVID, was you were vaccinated if you're at least 14 days after receiving your second vaccine. So we give you one shot, we wait 2 to 4 weeks, we give you another shot, we wait another 2 weeks, now you're vaccinated. So you might have 4 to 6 weeks after you've received vaccine shots, maybe 2 of them, where you're still in the unvaccinated bucket. And if you remember, there was this tight clustering of vaccine side effects in the day, 2, 3, 4 days after vaccination. Sudden deaths, fever, seizures, all that sort of stuff. That peaked very early after you received the shot. Of course it did. You've just received the shot. You're not going to get a side effect weeks later and magically not get it when the concentration in your body is the highest. But they redefined vaccinated as up to 4 to 6 weeks after you'd received the vaccine. And what this meant was that they could lump all of the side effects of the vaccine into the unvaccinated bucket. So you get your COVID shot, you drop dead 30 minutes later in the car park outside the vac centre, they record you as a sudden death in the unvaccinated. This was utter fraud, and they used it to manufacture this statistic saying that the vaccines were protective by transferring the side effects into this fraudulent category, unvaccinated, which you weren't.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
why am I talking about this? Okay, so they have in recent years been redefining things. Well, what is a woman, Mark? Okay.
Yeah, no, true, yeah.
Which makes me suspicious of this story, which came out in the ABC. Pregnancy loss is more common than previously thought. Now, that's interesting, given that we have genuine concerns about adverse fertility effects of the magic holy shots, increasing pregnancy loss, increasing miscarriages, increasing stillbirths. Isn't it handy that apparently we were wrong about how many miscarriages and stillbirths really happen, and it's more than we thought. So now that the numbers have gone up, you know what? That's just normal. There was always that, because here's the new definition. So I'm deeply suspicious of this because of what I just talked about.
Yes. Correlation and causation.
Okay, or I might just drop that down a bit. So what have we got here? We've got next health story. The nannies were out in force this week, criticising, I think it was Geelong Football Club, for granting a player autonomy and allowing him to decide whether the risks of him playing were acceptable to him. Okay. The media instead jumped upon this when they found out and said that the club was trying to avoid responsibility, was putting a player at risk, etc., etc., etc. So let's play a little clip about the typical flavour of the media in response to this.
Putting himself at risk.
Well, Geelong has scrapped a secret deal with an AFL player which revealed the club of all legal responsibility for concussions. Live to Aspen Blomfield at AFL House in Melbourne. Aspen, what has the club had to say?
Brooke, Geelong has conceded that this letter went further than was originally intended. Just to recap, an AFL player was cleared by the concussion panel to continue playing after sustaining multiple head knots. However, Geelong did not want to a massive damages claim if this footballer was to re-injure themselves. So a secret deal was struck whereby the player would assume all legal responsibility if they were to sustain another injury. This waiver insider letter was not lodged or approved by the AFL or Players Association. Here's a short statement from the Cats, which was released last night. The club says they acknowledge the letter signed with one of its players went further than was intended and recognised the absence of the Players Association in the process. The club will remove the waiver outlined in the letter, noting that the player continues to acknowledge potential risk. We've also received a statement from the AFL and Players Association. That statement says they are aware of a complex and unique case in which a Geelong player was cleared as fit to play. The AFL is satisfied that the letter was not used by Geelong to allow a medically unfit player to return to play, and any proposed arrangements that impact on a player's legal rights and protections will need to be approved by the AFL in the future. Now, there's been plenty of reaction across the football community last night and this morning. There's plenty of people calling on the Geelong Cats to be sanctioned, but there's also lots of people saying that players sign themselves up to these risks.
It is really difficult, though, because we know that the players' health and well-being is the #1 priority. But there's also players here making a living for themselves and their family. And if we go too hard down this path where we start stepping on every minute detail, well, all of a sudden the medical panel go, you've had 2 or 3 concussions, you retire, you're done. And then we start booting players out of the game.
All I know is if when I was playing, we all had concussions. If I'd signed a waiver to keep playing, I would have.
Now, this bombshell report first appeared in the Herald Sun, the paper also confirming this morning that a Sydney player signed a similar agreement in the VFL several years ago. So quite a big story this morning.
Aspen, thank you, and I'm sure we'll have more on that throughout the morning.
Yeah, so what I reckon's happening, I don't know if you've got your microphone plugged in as well as maybe the mic from your laptop might be playing back, because there's definitely an echo on your end when you're playing, when stuff's playing. So it doesn't seem to be coming through when you're talking, but when we're back playing something, it definitely is picking it up through another device. But anyway, it was still understandable. It wasn't too crazy, but yeah, just sort of letting you know.
Yeah, well, like I say, I haven't changed anything unless Microsoft has pushed me an update like they did a few months ago.
As they do. As they do.
And I am
That's
hopeful. I've got a headset coming, which might be ready for next week.
That's all right. I mean, it was still bearable. It was all right. Just thought I'd let you know.
I've got one more audio, which you might want to stand by for muting me. If you mute me, does the audio still play?
Yeah, no, it won't play if I mute you, know.
Alrighty, so we'll see what we get.
Yeah.
So where were we? Okay, so the hoo-ha there was not that they were allowing an incompetent or unfit player to play. They weren't saying that he was impaired and he was unable to make a decision. They've said he'd been cleared by the concussion panel. Whether you believe the process or not, it is the process. So the club said to this player, look, you've been cleared of concussion, but you're at more risk in the future. So we don't want to let you play because that's a risk. And the player said, I accept that risk and I'll sign a document that says it. Okay, so they weren't saying he's incompetent to sign. They were saying, okay, well, your decision, mate. If you want to keep playing, we're not going to carry the can. Fair enough. That was the argument.
Yep.
Nevertheless, it's been blown up into this, terrible club that was putting his health at risk. No, the player was putting his health at risk. The default answer was the club will say, well, sorry, mate, you can't play. And he'll say, I'll take the risk, I'll play. That's what really happened. But the media is blowing it up into this uncaring club, putting him at risk. That's what they're telling us. Now, you might have noticed one of the things that was said in that was that the panel said that the players' health and well-being is the #1 priority. Now, I got told this when I went to Afghanistan the last time. When we were leaving, we had a pep speech from the general on the way into Afghanistan. And he said, remember, the most important thing is that everybody comes home. Bullshit. If the most important thing is everybody comes home, don't ask me to spend 6 months in a base where we got mortared and rocketed, where we had to wear body armour, where we had concrete T barriers because the locals were restless. That was just bullshit.
Yeah.
But this panel repeated that BS. The #1 priority is the health and well-being of the player. Well, if that's true, all clubs have to fold because there's risks in playing football. And the old, your safety is paramount thing is exactly what the Nazis used. We're making this decision for your safety. You don't get to say, for your safety, your wise rulers are going to say it's no good for you. You can't do it. Okay. Now, by the way, I have done a number of things in my life which did not place my safety above all else. I judged the risks and benefits myself and decided, yep, I'll do that. The next person might have gone, I don't want to do that. That's too dangerous. But it was my choice. I'm putting myself at risk. I have autonomy. I can adjudicate the risks and decide whether I want to do it. So here's a few examples. Climbing on the back of a horse and galloping cross country over jumps carries risks. If my safety mattered more than everything else, cross that off. Not allowed to do that. I've participated in motorsport. Motorsport carries risks. If my safety was the only thing that mattered, according to my wise rules, cross that off. And by the way, I've only competitively played 2 sports in my life, horse riding and motorsport, both of which required an ambulance at the start line. It's not like we were unaware that there were risks.
Mm-hmm.
We chose to do it because we got benefits.
Yep.
All right, what else have we got? Well, this one actually was based upon my putting my safety above other things. And that was declining to take part in the world's greatest medical experiment. So I guess in that case, yeah, my choice was, no, that risk is too high for me. I'm not going to do that. But this one wasn't. I've taken part in multiple war deployments where people genuinely wanted you dead. The Op4, the opposing force, the locals, shot at us, mortared us, rocketed us, put bombs under roadways, etc., etc. So, like I say, if the only priority there was that I didn't get hurt, I can't be there. I should have said no at the start. What else have I done where there were risks that maybe wise rulers might have said you're not allowed to take those risks, in our opinion? Farming.
The old backhoe.
So here's me using a backhoe that's about as old as I am, with no roll cage, to dig a hole, using a line of 6 different hydraulic levers, which are unmarked, and by the way, which I borrowed off my neighbour, and for which there was so much slack in every part of the system, in the lever, in the both ends of the hydraulic ram, etc., that when you pulled the lever, for a while you didn't know what was going to happen. And when it did happen and you let it off, it kept happening for a while. So there were definitely risks in me doing this, but there were benefits too. I got a hole. That was my benefit.
Yeah, you got a hole after it. Yeah.
And there was this, of course, firefighting. If the only thing that mattered is my safety, then I need to be doing what they tell the civilians to do, which is leave early. So what I'm saying is that if we accept the principle that some higher authority can judge for us whether a risk is acceptable and say don't do it, then a whole lot of opportunities would have been denied to me in life, as would the benefits of all of those. So you say to me, oh, you can't take the fire truck out, it's too dangerous if there's a fire. That means your house burns down. There's risk and benefits here. It's not up to our wise rulers to judge where the line is. But that's exactly the argument that's being made with this football player. You're not allowed to decide whether you want to keep playing and earning money for your family because we determined that the risk to you is too high. You might accept it. You might sign a waiver and say, I accept the risk. Libertarian. It doesn't matter because the choice about your body is not yours. It's the higher authorities. Okay.
Yep.
Plus, most of those things were actually quite fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so most of the most dangerous kind of things usually are, Bruce, until they're not.
If football's a contact sport, so is horse riding. so's motorsport, so's firefighting, so's operating ancient diggers with no roll bars, so's military deployments. They're all contact sports.
Yep.
Righto. Diversity. Epic was dangerous. It was bloody dangerous for me.
Yeah, that's right. Bloody hell, it was dangerous for you for sure. Wow, laughing like a stint in the slammer. Well, bloody hey. Yep.
Yes. Yes. All right. All right. So diversity section. So I thought this story from the UK was a touching example of how diversity, tolerance, and respect for the views of others really could work in action. So on this case, let's read the story. UK police force invites non-Muslim staff to fast during Ramadan as an act of solidarity. West Midlands Police Force is actively inviting non-Muslim officers and staff to go without food and water during Ramadan as a deliberate act of solidarity with Muslim colleagues. What do you think of that? Would you do that? Do you think that's all right?
No. No. To be compelled to do anything like that.
No, they're just asking you. You're not being compelled, unless you say no, of course.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Be like the whole rolling up your sleeve thing, was it? Nobody's forcing you to, except we'll cancel your life if you don't.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Yep.
Anyway,
exactly.
I think this is a great example of how diversity can work, and I want to extend the idea. So I want to extend it to the Muslim staff of the West Midlands Police Force. And I want them to do the same thing at Christmas. I want the same thing with a bacon and egg roll. I want the same thing when I'm taking a dog out for a walk. I want the same thing for gay pride festivals. And I want the same thing if I draw a picture of Muhammad on a piece of paper. Because let's face it, you know, diversity, you know, it's tolerance. It's a two-way street, sure. It's not a one-way street, is it?
Yep. Yep.
Well,
they think it's a one-way street. They think it's a one-way street, Bruce.
I'm guessing that that my idea will not be added to their idea. I'm guessing that they'll go with this one, and I'm guessing that this one might defer that to the next committee meeting. What do you reckon?
Oh, you bigot. You're just a bigot, Bruce. Apologise now.
And I fell foul of the same thing with SA Ambulance back before I ended working for them, because whilst we were, well, it was during the period where the gay marriage referendum was coming out in South Australia. It might have been Australian. And so the CEO, who I didn't know was gay, by the way, he issued this memo to all staff. You know, email went out, said that staff who want to show support for the gay marriage referendum are encouraged to wear badges or rainbow epaulets. So my reply at 8 o'clock at night, 2 hours late in my shift, which had gone, you know, hellishly long, was count me out of your SJW bullshit, which apparently created some offence on the behalf of the CEO. So he pursued me relentlessly for quite a long time through the HR people, accusing me of breaching the code of conduct and all the DEI BS. And he even sent me a copy of the code of conduct, which was an error, because I read it and took notes, a bit like the Quran. And I counter-argued that he'd failed in his duty of care as a CEO by failing to declare an interest when he invited gay members of staff to support the gay marriage thing, given that he was gay, which I didn't know. Okay, so that all sort of went away after a while, but yes, he seized all my emails, and he was particularly offended by one that he seized, which I'd sent to a different co-worker, which said, tell the boss I'd much rather be left alone, but if he really wants a fight, I'm up for it. I'm a suicide bomber with my finger on the button, and only one of us will be left standing at the end of this. He apparently took offence to that. As it turned out, about halfway through that sort of institutional harassment campaign, he suddenly left the country, and it turned out he was being investigated by ICAC for a whole lot of other things. So I was right.
Got out of it.
Anyway, Always Escalate is my middle name, as I'm sure people know.
Well, look, yeah, exactly right. And play them at their own game. Like the idea of requesting non-halal food at functions.
And I got it. I don't know if I really got it, but they made some attempt, yes. All right. Government overreach and government. And I've got this story here about collectivism versus individualism rather than left-right. So that sort of fits into the governance thing. The insight came from this story in the Expose News, which said, forget the left versus right of politics. The real battle is between collectivism and individualism. I thought, yeah, that's right. So what did it say? Collectivism is the belief that, I can't read it, the group is more important than the individual, and that individuals must be sacrificed if necessary for the greater good of the greater number. So that's collectivism. Okay. The old greater good again, eh? Now, this story was based on the writings of US writer G. Edward Griffin, who I mentioned earlier. And I'll portray his book a bit later, The Creature from Jekyll Island, which describes how central banking arose in 1913. But Edward Griffin set out what he calls the pillars of collectivism. A bit like the 5 pillars of Islam, there's 5 pillars of collectivism. So number 1, the origin and nature of human rights. The individual's assumption is that rights are inalienable and in the innate possession of the people. The purpose of the state is not to grant rights, but to secure them and protect them. So that's the individuals, like I am. By contrast, all collectivist political systems embrace the opposite view, that rights are granted by the state. Collectivists believe states have powers that are greater than those of their citizens, stemming from the doctrine of the greatest good for the greater number. Now, for the greater good, we've discussed a little bit here, haven't we? Individuals must sacrifice themselves for the good of the group. There's no individualism, there's only collectivism. Okay. Now, a lot of people think, well, that's a reasonable thing. If the sum total of human happiness is greater, if the individual sum is less, as long as the absolute number is greater because more people benefit, then that's a justifiable position, according to collectivists. I don't happen to believe that, and I'm going to give you an example as to why I don't believe that. So perhaps this example about kidneys might change your mind. You and I presume you, have 2 kidneys. Okay. Now, we could take both your kidneys out, Mark, and transplant them into 2 other people on the transplant waiting list. So you end up with no kidneys, and 2 other people end up with 1 kidney. So you end up suffering, and you might even die. You'd certainly be dependent on dialysis. But 2 other people are better off because they don't need dialysis anymore. So the group is better off. The greater good is definitely improved here, right? You've gone down, but 2 other people are better off. I happen not to think that's a good thing. As an individual, I own my body. I get to choose what's done with it, not you, not for your benefit. Here's point 2 from G. Edward Griffin. Group supremacy. Collectivism is based on the belief that the group is more important than the individual. Therefore, the individual must be sacrificed if necessary for the greater good of the greater number. And we just talked about that.
Yep.
And we demonstrated that during COVID. Our wise rulers definitely decided that you could sacrifice some individuals to benefit others. So the greater good. So it wasn't about your rights as an individual. You know, this kid has to take the COVID shot to protect grandpa and grandma and whoever else is next to them. Okay. So that was regarded as a reasonable thing by the state. The state, of course, are collectivists. The state doesn't want, a herd of cats. The state wants a flock of sheep. All right, principle 3, coercion versus freedom. Individualists are champions of individual rights. Therefore, they endorse the principle of individual responsibility, not group responsibility, and voluntary collaboration in collective action to solve problems. Collectivists declare that individuals are not responsible for charity, raising their own children, providing for aging parents, or even for themselves. These are group obligations, i.e. state obligations. In short, individualists expect to do it themselves. Collectivists want the government to do it for them and see government as the one group that can force everyone else to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Griffin's Principle 4, private property. The preamble is that private property is a prerequisite for independence and freedom. If you own nothing, you're dependent on the state whether you're happy or not. The abolition of private property is collectivism's mantra, no matter whether it's communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, or any other ism. All the high priests of collectivism are in agreement that private property must be replaced by so-called public property under the direction of benevolent administrators for the good of all. And that's why the state just grows. The state grows by taking your stuff and leaving you personally with less. And I'm going to skip ahead to number 6, equality versus inequality under the law. Individualists believe that no two people are exactly alike and each one is superior or inferior to others in many ways, but under law they should be treated equally. Collectivists believe that the law should treat people unequally to bring about desirable changes in society.
Mm-hmm.
Now, desirable to whom would be the obvious first question. You know, the two guys getting my kidneys might desire that and I might not, but they outvote me.
Yep. Yep.
Now, by the way, people who are championing individual rights are not advocating lawlessness or anarchy. Here's the definition of anarchy. Anarchy is a socio-political concept that signifies the absence of governmental leadership, emphasising individual freedom over state authority. So anarchy is no rulers, not no rules. It's just the rules come from local interactions, not pressed down from whichever shell of the Russian dolls is issuing orders.
Yeah. Yep.
So individualism means that I get to decide whether I want to help my neighbour. And this is me helping my neighbour and another chappie. And that was based on how's my relationship with my neighbour. Do I get on well with my neighbour? Has he done favours for me in the past? Do I want to do favours for him now? Or is he a dick who I just have no interest in helping? That's an individual decision. So he earns his charity and cooperation by how he acts, and I earn mine by how I act. Now, alternatively, if you're a collectivist, you have some wise bureaucrat telling everybody what they have to do in their interactions with everyone else, whether they like it or not. And welfare is the perfect example of that. In the olden days, if you fell on hard times, you got what was called charity. Your neighbours helped you, the church helped you, the local community helped you, if you'd earned it. You know, if they saw that your hard times were due to genuine accidents occurring to a decent person, you know, the woman with 2 kids whose husband dies, that's a charity case worth supporting. But in the modern era, it's not charity, it's welfare, which means I can be the biggest a-hole on the planet. I can steal stuff up and down the street. I can run you off the road. I can be totally obnoxious, and your money still has to be given to help me because I haven't got a job. That's the difference between individualism and collectivism. Responsibility versus the state blanket gives it to you.
Yep. So it's been funneled into that thought process over decades. Now,
C.S. Lewis talked about the old third era Zickerheit thing. It's for your own good. And this is what he said. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their conscience. They may be more likely to go heaven, yet at the same time likelier to make hell on earth. This very kindness stings with intolerable insult. To be cured against one's will and cured of states, which we may not regard as disease, is to be put on the level of those who have not yet reached the age of reason, or those who never will, to be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals. So that's where you don't matter individually, the collective owns you and they get to say what's good for you.
Yep. Yep. And through, the slow creep through all the institutions, the young have been encouraged to feel that this is the right way to go. They want the big daddy government to be able to make all the decisions for them.
Look, socialism always appeals to the young for two reasons. One is they haven't been hit with a clue bat yet. Now, being hit with a clue bat is the open borders, all migrants are welcome female who shares her apartment with 3 Moroccan men and gets raped by them. That's called being hit with a clue bat. The other reason that socialism and communism appeals to young people, because the basic message is you get other people's stuff. Now, when you're young, you don't have much of your own stuff. So the idea that you get other people's stuff appeals. When you get older and you've accumulated some of your own stuff, the idea that the young people steal it does not appeal. So, I think Winston Churchill said, if you're not a socialist in your 20s, you have no heart. If you're still a socialist in your 40s, you have no brain. So many great Churchill quotes. And if you're interested, I mentioned that book, The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin, the US author. And he basically describes how the swamp, that hidden inner layer of the Russian dolls, met on Jekyll Island in Georgia in the US and created central banking. Now, central banking basically says that money is now controlled by a central producer rather than the free market. And the bad side of that is that because you've got a central body that can produce money rather than earn it, they could create money out of thin air, and that meant that wars could be financed forever, regardless of whether the people wanted to pay for them. You went back into the 1600s, 1700s. If your country went to war, the war ended when you ran out of gold. You couldn't just print more gold to pay for it. With the advent of central banking, that was the key tenet of creating money out of thin air. It's stolen off the people via inflation, but you had this illusion that you could create money, which meant that you could fund wars even if the people didn't agree with them. And that happened in 1913. Have you any idea which war started in 1914, Mark?
Yeah, well, interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah, the first industrial war, the First World War, happened within a year of the creation of central banking on Jekyll Island. And of course, they've been going on for 100 years since. You look at the US now, the majority of the US population does not support the military action in Iran, but they're just doing it anyway.
Yeah.
They're just doing it anyway.
Yep, good for profits. Yeah, very good. There's a really good clip of him, or actually, I think it's just about half an hour. It's black and white when he was a lot younger, having a great conversation about all this, what's going on there, that whole thought about collectivism and so forth.
Yeah. All right, so let's take it out with a couple of Muslims, if we may. So, first off, a great example of what I'm going to call Lincoln's Law. And Abraham Lincoln said the best way to get a bad law repealed is to enforce it strictly. Okay. So let's have an example of this. So in the US, this 6'10" male pro basketballer has read the rules for the women's competition and decided that he's eligible. because there's no definition of a woman. If he says he's a woman, and so he's thinking, bugger it, I'll play in the women's league. Okay. Now, here's what he said, and oops, we're going to have to be careful with sound here, aren't we? So let's see if we can play what he said.
Yeah, it may just be echo. I think it was still understandable. It was just conscious of it. So see how we go. The only way you can get out of it is, I guess, unplug your microphone. Just go through the microphone.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles. See you at training camp.
How was the audio there? Just my interest.
Oh yeah, no, still. For some reason, it's just must be just picking up the sound somehow. Yeah. Anyway, you'll work it out.
All right. So that was an example of Lincoln's Law. The best way to change a stupid rule is to enforce it. Okay. So here's what the WNBA said in response. Oh, sorry. Here's basically what he was basing that on the rule. He said, the league's collective bargaining agreement states that only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. It offers no further definition of women. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. And by the way, there's a second one. He's the second one who's come out and said this. So there's now two 6 foot tall, 6'10" men saying, bugger it, I'm a woman. Now, the commissioner of the WNBA has realised that she's in a real bind here. So here's what the commissioner said. Commissioner Engelbert tried to walk a tightrope, admitting the issue of transgender, biological male, participation will keep drawing significant attention while labelling it a complex and nuanced topic. It's not complex. It's not nuanced.
Two sexes, male and female.
Yes. So, maybe they'll have to get a definition of what a woman is, and obviously they won't be able to get that from Professor Skerritt, will they?
No, because they'll have to take that on notice of, as we know, Bruce.
Well, it's a comprehensive report.
That's right. Yes, he was all kind of smug and laughing and didn't know how to answer it, did he?
Now, one of the replies to this in the comments said something that I've talked about in the past, which is go for it. If you can self-identify sex, go for it, no problems. But in return, I get to self-identify age, whether I pay taxes, what my race is, what my occupation is, whether I'm innocent or guilty. I mean, you can't argue that I can go against all logic and change my gender if I can't similarly ignore evidence and change any of those other things.
Well, that's right. Trust the science, Bruce.
I identify as a 68-year-old non-taxpayer. Where's my pension?
Yeah, exactly right. Treat me equally.
Police pull me over for drink driving. I blow in the bag. I'm over, and they say, "Don't worry about it. I identify as under the limit."
Yep.
What was that one about? What is the definition of male?
The same as what's the definition of a female?
Well, it's complicated, but it's going to involve misogyny, toxicity, colonialism, patriarchy.
Bigotry, all that sort of stuff.
The
Yep.
definition of a man is complex. I'll give you that.
Yep. No, that's right. Yes.
Right, what have we got here? Now, to take us out, I think this is the last one. This is from the Climate Change End files, because apparently climate change is making us lonelier.
Oh, of course it is.
So here's what the story said. As an assistant professor of social work at the University of Tennessee, I study converging social and environmental crises, including social disconnection and extreme weather. I've found that one of climate change's most overlooked impacts may be its ability to worsen the continuing loneliness epidemic. So climate change is causing loneliness, Mark.
Well, that's really interesting.
Now, here's a couple of what I thought were real-world comments. Only an academic could come up with something this absurd. Evidently, it didn't occur to her that if hot weather keeps people indoors and isolates them, then cold weather might do that too. Caribbean holidays seem more sociable than Arctic ones. Apparently, she didn't consider that a bit of global warming and shorter winters might be a benefit for social events. Sadly, this also didn't occur to her supervisor, grant assessor, students, or the editors of the conversation either. And a second comment, as usual, everything is climate change. It's not like we've had 20 years of explosive growth in the internet and smartphones to make us lonely, is it?
Yep. Internet and smartphones, yep.
Surrounded by absurdity. And again, I wish I could pull the author of this quote, but it's something like, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Yeah.
Must look up that was. I have an endless bank of quotes. I can't always tell you who said them.
Who said what? Yep. Oh, you're just the man that wanted to be left alone, Bruce.
Non-collectively.
Look at you. You're done in under 2 hours, Bruce. Look at you go. Have you got a hot date or something tonight, mate? I want to get out of here a bit quicker.
Now, I've just Googled that while we're there. I've just Googled that. So let's add that to the share screens. That quote apparently comes from Voltaire.
Voltaire,
Those who make you believe absurdities is part of the quote attributed to Voltaire. Those who make you absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Very, very interesting.
A lot of great quotes, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There you go, old Voltaire. He's quoted for a few things, hasn't he? And if people, I don't know. Go.
One of his other quotes that I loved was, "It is dangerous to be right when the state is wrong."
Very much. Well, we found that out, don't we? We found that out in a big way.
That's true.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, if as you know, the other week I did a bit of a quick little PowerPoint on the whole idea of Fabian socialism. So I've got a few up to part 3 of a 5-part series on there if people want to check it out. So the first one is Who Must Justify Their Existence, which talks about Fabian socialism and how the link to the Australian Labor Party. Then I talk about this state we actually have and how much the influence, there is some correlation of influence into the Labor Party and the Australian unions. And then the one I've just recently published is what it's actually costing us with Labor. So we've got a couple more to finish up on that as well. So if people are interested, onto fcpaustralia.com if people are interested in that as well. But we've seen that we've got a bit of time. I was just going to play a little bit of a clip that I come across a long time ago, and you may have seen it. It's an old 1948 animation that talks into some of the stuff that you've been talking into tonight. You might be able to give me just a bit of feedback on it. You may have seen it, but we'll see if you have or you haven't. It's old and it's a bit grainy, but we'll see what it comes out like. So let's just play this. I'll bring this to the stage and we'll play it.
America is many things to many people. To a 17-year-old kid, it's the malt shop on the corner. To Grandpa, it's the front porch in the cool of the evening. To Mother and her family, it's church on Sunday morning. And to Dad, it's his favorite relaxation. It's the Cracker Barrel philosophers in Crabtree Corners. And it's the tycoons in Wall Street. It's all races, creeds, and religions. It's freedom to work at the job you like. Freedom of speech and to peaceably assemble. Freedom to own property. Security from unlawful search or seizure.
Where's your warrant, Flatfoot?
The right to a speedy and public trial. Protection against cruel punishments and excessive fines. The right to vote. And to worship God in your own way. It is these freedoms that have made America strong.
Okay, so we got our freedom. But management's lousing up everything.
Labor is at fault. It's ruining the country.
My constituents, as your elected representative, I can assure you Labor's right. Management's right. I'm strictly neutral.
Labor, management, politicians, hooey. They can't tell corn from oats.
Wait,
Take the money out of it.
Hurry, step right up, folks. Here's the answer to your problems. Dr. Utopia's sensational new discovery, ism. Ism will cure any ailment of the body politic. It's terrific. It's tremendous. Once you swallow the contents of this bottle, you'll have the bountiful benefit of higher wages, shorter hours, and security. Enormous profits, no strikes. Remember, you're the big boss. Government control, no worry about votes. Name your own salary. Bigger crops, lower costs. Why, ism even makes the weather perfect every day. And now then, because we are introducing this amazing item for the first time in this country, it isn't going to cost you 1 cent. All you have to do is sign this little scrap of paper, and you get your bottle absolutely free.
I hereby turn over to ISM Incorporated everything I have, including my freedom and the freedom of my children and my children's children, in return for which said ISM promises to take care of me forever.
Get out of the way.
Pardon me.
And who are you, my good man?
I'm John Q. Public.
Ah, my fine friend, you're just in time to share this generous and gigantic offer. Sign right here.
Mind if I read it first?
Hurry up,
Keep your shirts on, boys. Including my freedom. Freedom? Well, sign away my freedom. Why, this is ridiculous.
Don't be corny, brother.
Sure, our double talk. Let's turn the clock back a few years to see what it's done for us. For example, back in the 1890s, Joe Dokes was just a guy who liked to tinker around his barn. Some people thought Joe was lazy. Some even thought he was nuts. But one day, he had an idea. And because he was free to dream his dream and tinker, Joe had a chance to make something of himself and his idea. So, of course, some people didn't think so much of Joe's idea. But that didn't stop him. So Joe got some money from young Aunt Minnie and Uncle Angus and Grandpappy and Mr. Titus. When Joe's friends and relatives used their savings to help him buy tools and property, they were capitalists. Don't blush, folks. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Now, naturally, Joe needed some help. So he hired Willie Lumpkin, who was out of work anyway, and before long, Willie had the know-how and became skilled labor. Because capital, management, and labor worked together, Joe's idea grew. It grew and did things even he never dreamed of. Today, the automobile industry provides millions of jobs that never existed before. And remember, this is a story of only one industry. There are thousands more scattered all over the United States whose history of development is pretty much the same. We've built a country under the American system that sends more young people to high school and college than all the rest of the world combined. Why, even in the Depression, our wages bought more food, clothing, travel, and entertainment than the wages of any other people in the world. Our country has a national income equal to the total national incomes of any other sixth nation in the world. With only 7% of the Earth's people, we drive 70% of the world's automobiles. That's just a sample of the things the capitalistic system has given us in only 160 years. Before signing up, you boys ought to try a little taste of Dr. Ism's formula to see what you'd get in exchange for your freedom. Go ahead, try it.
You can't do this to me! I'll strike!
The state forbids strikes.
Wait till the union hears about this!
Ah, yes, the Union. Welcome to our ranks, number 1313.
I'll take this case to the Supreme Court.
The state is the Supreme Court. Our decision is as follows. No more private property. No more you.
The farm vote will put a stop to this.
Farmers don't vote anymore.
What'll they do for seed next year?
You won't have to worry about next year. The state will do your planning from now on.
We must fight to regain our freedom, or everything is lost. Everything!
Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
When anybody preaches disunity, tries to pit one of us against the other through class warfare, race hatred, or religious intolerance, you know that person seeks to rob us of our freedom and destroy our very lives. And we know what to do about it.
And now, gentlemen, no violence, please. And don't throw those bottles. Don't throw those bottles. No! Oh,
Working together to produce an ever greater abundance of material and spiritual values for all. That is the secret of American prosperity.
Dr. Utopia and his isms there, Bruce.
You did well to pull that out of thin air.
1948. Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it?
When was 1984 written? I think it was 48.
It's weird. The dates around it.
I'm going to Google that.
When was 1948 written? 1984 written. There you go. Go on, Google it. What does it come up with?
I'm going to say 48.
And all the people's asking whether if the link, I've put the link in the comments as well. So I might try and actually chuck that on my own up on the Rumble channel as well. But the links should be on most channels by now.
So close, Mark.
Mm.
I was 1949.
Oh, well, there you go. We'll see. Maybe, yeah. So maybe, there was a lot of thinking around what was happening at that time, mate. So, yeah. I mean, Edward Griffin and all those other people too. So, there we go. 1984, also known as 1984, is a dystopian novel by George. 1949. Well, there you go. See, only a year apart. That was 1948, and that was 1949. Interesting. People already knew what was happening. It's very cyclical, isn't it? It's cyclical. People, it's almost prophetic. What people have seen what the future is going to end up being like.
Well, of course we have. It repeats. The old saying, history never repeats.
Mm-hmm.
History always repeats, Mark, because human nature never changes.
Isn't there a song about that? I think 80s history never. There's something like that. Anyway,
Split Ends.
It does. Split Ends. That's it. That's what I was thinking of. I thought it was a good old Aussie band. Anyway, there you go, Bruce. I pulled that one out of the deck while we were talking and looked it up, and I thought, no, this will be a good one to close on, and that talks into the topics that we talked about and that we generally talk about. But anyway, many blessings to you again, brother, for everything you do. Muchly appreciated, and to our audience who continue to hang around for hours to watch our content and watch what you deliver there, Bruce. I appreciate the regulars, and I think we're still cracking all right there on Cafe Locked Out on the Rumble, and numbers wise and viewership wise. So we'll just keep going until one day it might dwindle down to nothing. But for now, we'll just keep, ticking along and doing what we're doing. Are you keen? Although, you are starting to get a bit of prominence there, mate. Like being in a panel of doctors with, McCullough and that, a little pleb, modest platform like mine might not cut it for you much longer, Bruce, but we'll see. I'll just hang on for as long as I can, and we'll go from there.
I like bringing the new talent on, you know that?
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. Just to suss them out to see whether the old talent can be booted to the sidewalk. Anyway, that's life. God bless you, man. Take care. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you all next week. Do it all again.
So the signs were there for all to see, the signs that we lost our way when we jail our heroes and applaud our villains. We turn our hearts away like a silent choir, too scared to sing the anthem from a braver day, a song our children need to hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix. Too scared to sing the anthem from a braver day, a song our children still need to hear, the ballad of Dr. Bruce